are some ways that we can create a harmonious look to a room? Hi everyone, it's Carol from Discover Interior Design, and I'm so glad you're here. In this video, we're going to be talking about the design principle of harmony and how we can use the design element of shape and form to create a harmonious look to a room. So let's get started. So harmony is a design principle. So one of the principles, or I always think of them kind of as a guide, these different principles that we use to incorporate into a design to make sure that the design is both functional and beautiful. And harmony is the result that we want when our room or our home is finished, so that there's a sense of balance and that everything is coming together and that there is a nice contrast between cohesiveness and variety. And to create harmony, we need to think of two kind of opposing different things. And one of them is unity. And unity is just about incorporating repetition into a design so that there is a sense of relatedness between different elements. And then variety has to do with adding contrast to rooms and to our homes so that everything isn't just repetition, that everything isn't just all the same, so that there is nice contrast and a nice mixing up of different elements so that a room looks and feels cohesive as well as interesting. And there are many ways that we create a harmonious look and feel to our home and to a room. And one of them is making sure that we incorporate all of the other design principles into our design. And the other way to do that is to use the design elements. And the design elements almost like tools or the ingredients to a recipe that we use to bring everything together. And so the design elements include color and light and space and shape and form and line and texture. So all of those different types of tools and different elements that we use to bring together a design. And in this video, we're just going to concentrate on one of the design elements of shape and form to help create a harmonious look to a room. So what is shape and form? So shape and form go together, but they're also a little bit different from each other. They relate to one another, but they also are very different. So shape is the two-dimensional version of this pairing of shape and form. And so we can think of different geometric shapes. And then form is the three-dimensional version of a shape. And so all of the two-dimensional shapes that we have actually have three-dimensional versions that we refer to as form. So a circle shape in three-dimensional form would be referred to as a sphere, or a square shape in a three-dimensional form would be referred to as a cube. And in our home, in our rooms, most of the time we are working with forms. We are working with three-dimensional shapes. Think of the very beginning of our house or the building where we live. That is a three-dimensional shape, a cube or a rectangular form. Or think of a room. The same thing is happening. Maybe it's a cube or a rectangular form. And throughout our rooms, we can see examples of form in the furniture that we have, or in the built-in cabinetry that we have, or even in light fixtures or the doorknobs on our doors. And so how can we use just the design element of shape and form to help create a harmonious look to our homes? Well, the first thing that we want to think about is unity. And we want to think about how to help tie everything together. And that's where we can repeat shapes and forms in a room or in our home to help bring a unified look to our home. And some of the ways that we do this are almost kind of in the background. We may not pay attention to them as much, but they are an important way that we are creating some repetition and bringing a unified, cohesive look to our home. Just think about your door handles or doorknobs. There is probably a primary form that's being used, a primary shape that's being used on those door handles or doorknobs that is being used throughout your home. And just because that's being repeated, that circular sphere shape of a doorknob, and that's repeated, say, on all of your interior doors, that's bringing some unity and cohesiveness to your home. Or maybe you're using rectangular shaped handles on your cabinetry in your kitchen. Well, just because you are repeating that rectangular shape throughout your kitchen, that means that you are creating a unified look. Or maybe you're using a patterned wallpaper or a patterned fabric, and just by the repetition of certain shapes that are on that fabric or wallpaper, that is helping to create a unified look. Or maybe you live in a home where you have brick on one of your walls. Well, the brick is made up of rectangular shapes, and actually they are rectangular forms. And just by the layout of that brick, you are creating a unified look. It's helping to kind of bring all of that together because it's repeating those bricks and that layout throughout that wall. Or even think of tile in a bathroom or tile in the backsplash of your kitchen. If you're using square-shaped tiles or rectangular-shaped tiles, you are repeating those shapes throughout that area. And you may have architectural details in your home. Maybe you have some architectural trim around your doors or paneling on your walls or paneling in your doors. And those shapes are being repeated throughout all of the trim around your doors or on your doors or even on the paneling in a wall. And all of that is adding to repetition and helping to unify everything in your home. And then when you want to change things up and add variety to a room and to your entire home, this is where we can look to the design elements to help us keep everything unified, but also look to the design elements to help change things up a little bit. So one thing that you can think about doing in a room, say if you have a certain shape that's kind of repeated a lot in the room, well, how about changing up that shape by changing the color or changing the size and scale or the texture or even the finish of that certain form or shape? And you're still tying all of this together, maybe through your design style or through the finish and through the shape or form itself. And so that's helping to tie everything together, but at the same time, you're adding some variety to all of these different elements. So one example would be, say you have cone-shaped lampshades on your lamps, say in a living room or even in a bedroom. And one way to mix things up a little bit, instead of having them all match the same color and same finish, maybe one could have a different color, or one could have a pattern on it, or maybe the sizes change a little bit. Just anything to kind of add some variety while still using that same shape and form. And then the other thing to think about is bringing in other shapes and forms into a room. And I think most likely that's what we probably naturally do in our rooms. There's always kind of this combination of different shapes and forms. But if you have a room where maybe there's a lot of repetition and of one shape or form, that's where you want to make sure just to bring in some other shapes and forms to kind of mix things up. And that could be as simple as adding some different patterns to throw pillows, for instance. And so you have different patterns, different shapes on each of those throw pillows. So it just adds some variety to that sofa. Or another example would be in a bathroom where you have tile on your wall. Maybe you have rectangular tiles. Just by creating a field of all of those rectangular tiles, it helps to unify that bathroom. But to create some variety in that room, it might be nice to add maybe a different shape, like a liner type of tile that has a different shape to it on those walls. Or what about using a different shape of tile on the flooring? And right away, that'll kind of add more variety and make that room look and feel a little bit more interesting. And the other idea to add variety is to change up the direction of the layout of tile or the layout of wood flooring. And a good example of that is a herringbone pattern. So we are using rectangular tiles or rectangular wood plank flooring, but we're laying them out in almost kind of a diagonal sort of direction. We're working with the direction of the line. Instead of seeing everything in a horizontal line or a vertical line, we're seeing everything now in a more diagonal line. And just by changing the direction of the layout, it creates more variety and makes everything a little bit more interesting. Another example of seeing variety in a room where we're kind of mixing up the shapes and forms is maybe in a kitchen where you have a kitchen island and you have pendant lights over that island. The pendant lights are maybe in a more rounded form. And so just by doing that, it kind of helps to mix things up, because if we look at a kitchen, we can notice that there's a lot of rectangular forms going on with the countertops and the cabinetry and all of the appliances. And so lots of times it's nice to add lighting in a kitchen when you have decorative lighting in a kitchen to kind of change up the shape and form of the lighting just to add some variety. Another idea is to change out your cabinet pulls or cabinet handles. That could be using cabinet knobs, say in your bathroom cabinetry, instead of handles. Everything is still in your same design style and same finish and material, but the shape and form is different. So it just adds a little bit of variety. And then think about your artwork and anything else that you hang on your walls and helping to kind of mix things up and changing out shapes and using a variety of shapes together to kind of add a nice, interesting look to your walls. And then make sure when you are working with different shapes in a room and different forms that you are kind of spreading things out in the room. So you're not grouping all of the circular shapes and forms together on one side and all the square shaped forms on the other. That you're kind of spreading things out so that when we look in a room, there is a unified look to everything, but at the same time, there is some variety that's happening. So I'd love for you to take a moment in your busy day and take notice of the different shapes and forms that you have in one of your rooms and how they are contributing to a harmonious look to that space. And are they helping to create a unified look? And are they also helping to create variety in that room? And if not, what can you do to maybe help unify everything a little bit better or even add more variety to make sure that the space looks interesting? So share what you find out in the comments, and please share any other ideas that you have about using shape and form to create a harmonious look to a room. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care.